Welcome to the Morel Ranch. I'm Jana Miller, founder of Total Wellness, a company that helps you deal with the psychology and physiology of nutrition. I'm excited today to introduce you to Janae Devika, also known as Cafe Janae. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the Morel Ranch. We are so excited to have you here and to have you share with us your message. Now, there are so many misconceptions about food and nutrition. And, you know, there's a million diets. The diet started in the 70s, and they have just been going and going and getting bigger and bigger and more. And we're actually getting heavier and fatter. So tell me, how is your message different than all the other diets that are out there?
Well, that is an excellent question. First of all, what I do is not a diet. Diets are generally some kind of a restriction, whether it's calorie restriction, carbohydrate restriction, fat restriction, and this is not about restriction, and this is not about weight loss. It's about health. If you are in good health, if you're eating healthy things, if you're living a healthy lifestyle, you're going to be the perfect weight for you, okay? Most people aren't overweight for no reason, just because they're fat or because they need to go on a diet or take a diet pill. They're overweight because they don't deal well with food emotionally or because they're eating the wrong things and they're not focusing on their health. So what we do at Cafe Janae is we teach people about the foods that contribute to health and the foods that promote disease. And then we teach them how to stop eating all the crappy stuff and how to start eating the good stuff. And what that does is helps us focus on how do I make my health more vibrant and how do I give my body the nutrients it needs to build cells and repair cells and to function properly. And if you have all that nutrition and all the building blocks to help your body to function properly, you'll be the perfect weight.
I love this message, and the reason why a lot of people are always, well, actually everyone is always really surprised when I tell them that I had a heart attack 4 years ago. And they look at me and they go, well, you're healthy, you're thin, you exercise, why did you have a heart attack? And the truth is it's not about being overweight, it's about the nutrition. And you know, I was raised on butter, cream, cheese, sugar, all of the good stuff. And unknowingly, I was damaging my body, and I had no outside indicators that told me that I was unhealthy. I just thought I was really fit and trim and that everything was fine. But inside, I was lacking all of those nutritional values that I really needed to be really sincerely, truly healthy. So tell me more about what we do so that we can incorporate this and the problem that we have in America with, you know, access to healthy food and access to food that isn't building our bodies the way that we need to.
That's a great question. And I think one of the myths is that if you're skinny, you're healthy, just like
exactly.
you said. And you know, you can lose weight and be on a diet, and even once you get skinny, if you're eating unhealthy foods and you're damaging your cells with the foods you're eating, even if you're thin, you're going to be unhealthy. And if you're unhealthy, you're going to gain that weight back, or you're going to have a heart attack, or you're going to have pain or fibromyalgia. There will be some disease or problem that will manifest if you're not healthy. And that's why we need to just focus on health.
Okay, for fun, I would like you to just kind of list, you know, we all know sugar, but why don't you go into a little bit more detail and kind of tell us what foods you think are really the big contributors to our problem?
Okay, it's pretty much everything that most people have in their cupboard.
Really?
It's the standard American diet. Okay, think about what the standard American eats, okay?
Okay.
The standard American eats 50 or more pounds of sugar every year, okay?
Really?
The standard American drinks 50 gallons of soda a year, okay? What do we eat when we have our dinner plate? We're focused on starches, which are refined carbohydrates. So you've got refined potatoes, white rice, pasta, or some kind of bread, white flour, crackers. So that's part of the plate. Another part of the plate is animal products, meat, cheese, fish, eggs, poultry. And then you might have a little tiny bit of vegetables and a little tiny bit of fruits. And if they are, they're probably really processed. And then we've got all sorts of Franken foods in our diet that aren't even really foods. Like think about margarine and cheese food products, like single slices, that kind of thing. Most of our candies and all this processed food we have, cereals, and this is what we're putting into our bodies. Our bodies are meant to take in food in its whole form and use that to repair cells that are damaged and to make more new cells and so our body can function properly, to use it for all the body functions.
Okay, so I have a question that makes me think. So tell me, what is the difference between like a vegetarian, a vegan, someone who eats raw, you know, someone who may have dairy but not meat products? What do you choose and how do you know? I hear, you know, everyone talking about this, and I think there's a lot of confusion about it.
There's a ton of confusion, and we were talking earlier, and I mentioned that I started looking into the vegan diet, but then I looked around and all the vegans were pasty and emaciated, and they just didn't look healthy, and I wondered, okay, if they're eating a healthy diet, why don't they look good? And then I looked into the vegan diet, and I saw some really big flaws in the vegan diet.
Oh, really?
So I'm just going to give you the rundown. There's foods that contribute to disease, and then there's foods that promote health.
Okay.
And it's a matter of finding those and choosing the foods that promote health and just getting rid of the foods that promote disease. So here's I'm just going to give you the rundown of the list. So here's the 5 top food categories that actually break your DNA, they cause weight loss, they contribute to heart disease and diabetes and all the other chronic illnesses, cancer. Here we go. So first of all is the oils. The oils that promote disease are, first of all, hydrogenated oils and partially hydrogenated oils. Second thing that surprises most people is the vegetable oils. So this is your corn oil, your canola oil, your soy oil.
Which every recipe calls for.
Exactly.
So are you going to tell us what to use?
I will. So let's go through the disease-causing foods first.
Perfect.
And then we'll tell you what to replace it with. Because if I just tell you, here's the disease-causing foods, stop eating those, and that's the end of our conversation, you don't have anything to replace it with. So of course you're just going to keep doing what you're doing. So let's talk about the disease-causing foods, and then we'll talk about all the things you can replace it with, because there's millions of wonderful things to replace it with. So you just want to stay away from hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, and all those vegetable oils, okay?
And do you just look at the ingredient list to see that?
Reading ingredients is something that people do not know how to do. So on the back of the can, I wish we had a can here, but we don't. There's 2 parts. There's a little part that's the nutrition data, and it tells you like calories, carbohydrates, sodium.
Which everybody reads.
Most people just look at that and they think, oh, look, it's low in carbs, it's low in sodium, and oh, no cholesterol. It's healthy for me, right? And then that's all they look at. What you need to do is just ignore that. Pretend it's not even there. A lot of times that little box is just a marketing scam anyway, okay? You need to look right below that on the ingredient list and see what ingredients are in your food. If those ingredients are not from whole foods, like something that you recognize from the garden or something that you recognize from nature, you shouldn't be eating it. Almost every package or can or box or bag of food is filled with preservatives, hydrogenated oils, sugars, corn syrup, artificial flavors, artificial colors, all this kind of crap that causes disease, and that's what we're eating. So we really need to be careful to read the labels. I read a book that said, you know, if it has more than 5 ingredients on the label, you shouldn't eat it. And if you can't pronounce what the ingredients you shouldn't read it. And I think that's pretty accurate. Most of the canned food that I do eat, which is not much, but most of the canned food, it just has like, you know, a can of peaches will have peaches and water, or you know, beans and salt or something like that. So it's still just basic whole foods.
So we just really want to get back to just what the food is that you're trying to eat.
Exactly.
With nothing in
with
there.
Nothing else in. Nothing else in there.
Add to it.
So what you're going to replace your oils with is like coconut oil is a great oil to cook with. Raw vegan coconut oil. It's a medium chain triglyceride, which means it's your body uses it up as a carbohydrate instead of a fat. So usually when you eat oils, your body will store it away for later to use for energy at a different time. With coconut oil, your body uses it up right away as if it's a carbohydrate, and it actually helps you lose weight. It helps you get immediate energy, and it's very high in lauric acid, which is very, very healthy for you. And your body just can use it really well. There's some studies with Alzheimer's patients actually that show that when they were eating a certain amount of coconut oil, raw coconut oil per day, their memory started coming back and their Alzheimer's symptoms started to reverse. Why? They were getting symptoms because their brain was starving for nutrition. And
Oh,
coconut oil has the nutrition that their brain needed. And it went from this starving brain that didn't have anything to work with to, feeding the brain, and then they could start remembering things again.
okay, and you can cook coconut oil, because I know
You
some
can.
oils you can't cook and some oils you can.
Right, so oils all have a smoking point, and smoking point is a certain temperature where the oil starts to give off a smoke, okay? And once that happens, the oils become oxidized, and then they're carcinogens, which mean they cause cancer. So you always want to know what the smoking point of your oil is. So for instance, coconut oil smoking point, I think, is around 350 degrees.
Okay.
So you can saute with that, you can bake with that, and it'll be fine. Olive oil, on the other hand, has a very low smoking point. So even though lots of people say, use olive oil, it's healthy, if you cook with it, it oxidizes at a very low temperature. It's not healthy for you anymore. It actually is disease producing. So you need to just, use your olive oil for salad dressings and putting on your food after it's cooked. If you want to cook food, coconut oil is one of your best choices.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. What else?
Well, next on the list is sugars.
Yeah.
Sugars are a big deal. America is addicted to sugar, and I think you know what a big
Yes.
problem that is.
Yeah, there's hundreds of names for sugar. It is disguised in a lot of ways.
And you work with people that have food addictions. Why don't you talk about high fructose corn syrup? That's your specialty, and how that's addicting.
Well, high fructose corn syrup is an interesting substance because it actually metabolizes like ethanol, which is alcohol. So when we look around and we see everybody has a little beer belly, it's because of high fructose corn syrup, not because they've been drinking beer. And it also stimulates the amygdala, which is the addictive area of your brain. So what happens is you eat something that has high fructose corn syrup in it, and it triggers your amygdala, which is the addictive feel-good area of your brain. And so you start wanting more, and it's metabolizing like alcohol. And then the other thing is it doesn't make you feel satiated. And so instead, your ghrelin keeps producing in your stomach going, I'm hungry, And so you're like going, oh my word, I can't stop eating this bag of sweets, Once I eat one, I eat the whole bag. That's why
I think everybody's experienced that with ice cream or chips or cookies.
M&Ms or anything. Yeah, it's really, really common. And then, of course, sugar. The problem with sugar is that it's been stripped from the plant. And the thing that stabilizes sugar, the reason why fruits are so good for us and why we can eat them as a sweet treat is because they have fiber and pulp. And without the fiber and pulp, it doesn't stabilize. And so your insulin spikes, and it triggers that amygdala again. It doesn't digest right, and pretty soon your body is storing it. And so whenever you want to have a sweet, you've got to think, okay, in order to have a sweet, I've got to have some fiber, I've got to have some pulp. And pretty soon you start realizing that fruits are really nature's dessert. And it once you start changing and making the change, it becomes easier and easier. The other thing I've found, and you tell me if this is what you found, is we kind of have to change our palate a little bit.
Definitely.
We think that, well, I don't like that. But if you were raised in China, for instance, you probably would like, some of the grains that you eat because you would have been raised with that. And everyone can change their palate. Right now, as a whole culture, our palate is just addicted to salt and sugar. If it doesn't have salt and sugar, we don't think it's good. But once you cut it back, and once you really, really start focusing on the kinds of foods that you're talking about, you start going, oh my word, I just ate an orange and it tasted like candy to me. And it is really, really amazing, the difference. And, I hear people complain that they'll miss all of that, but once you do it, you don't, because the fruit truly tastes like a treat.
It does. I remember when I changed my diet, I ate tons of donuts and soda and salty food. When I changed my diet, I went without it for a whole month. And then when I came back to try it again, it was overwhelming and I couldn't eat it anymore. It made me sick, but I think people don't realize how terrible they feel unless they take away all that junk food for, a good solid month. And then if they try it again, usually they don't like it as much as they did before.
Exactly. So you change your palate. And
It doesn't take that long though.
It doesn't take that long.
No.
So that's probably one of the big things that people can start doing is experimenting. And I want you to talk about that a little bit more.
All right. And basically it's like one thing I try to tell people is it real food? Before you stick anything in your mouth, is it real food? How do you know if it's a real food? Did it come off a bush? Did it come from a plant? Did it come out of the ground? Is it in its original form? If it's real food and it hasn't been processed, that's probably going to be a health-promoting food.
Okay.
If it's not a real food, meaning it comes in a package or a box, and it doesn't look like the original form, then it's probably not real food. So that's just an easy way to gauge it.
So why do you think dairy and meat products don't support health?
Well, there's been many studies done on the effects that animal products have on the body. And the studies are showing us that some animal products are all right as long as you choose the correct animal products. We'll talk about that in a second. But more than 10% of your daily diet in animal products will contribute to cancer and other long-term chronic illnesses. There's a book called The China Study that I love. And the guy that wrote the book, he studied all these people in China that had various degrees of animal products in their diet, and he noticed that the people that had less than 10% of their diet of animal products, they were the healthiest, they were the most disease-free, and the more animal products that you ate, above 10%, it exponentially got worse. So it didn't just get a little bit worse as you went up.
It doubled, it tripled.
It did. And so as I teach my classes, I teach people, if you're going to eat animal products, that's dairy, meat, eggs, fish, make sure you keep it below 10% of your daily intake. So if you have a 2,000 calorie diet, that means 200 calories of animal products a day, maximum. That's not much. That's like
much.
A little tiny piece of cheese or a little tiny piece of meat.
And that includes fish.
That includes fish and eggs and dairy and any kind of animal products.
Okay.
So and we're focusing on health here. We're not focusing on calories. We're not focusing on weight loss. We're not focusing on fat. We're focusing on health. And if that's your focus, you definitely need to keep your animal products below 10%, with the caveat that you need to get your animal products from the right place.
And so where would that be?
Well, animals, let's take cows for instance. Cows are meant to eat grass.
Okay.
Cows are meant to be out wandering in the grass, drinking fresh water, out in the sunshine. The way cows are produced in America is in factory farms. So they're all crammed into a little muddy stall. They can't even move. They're so crammed in there. They're fed corn and animal byproducts.
And corn, which is also just
genetically modified.
And it's really just high fructose
corn syrup for the cows.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
So they're in cramped quarters with lots of other cows. They're being fed a horrible diet of corn. And did you know that, where they get part of cow feed? They scrape out the chicken coops, chicken poo. There's a certain amount of cow feed that is allowed to be the scrapings from the chicken coops. So this is what our cows are eating. You just got to think about, what are our cows eating? Where are they getting their nutrition from? And how does that become our beef and our milk, okay? So you want a cow that's out in nature, getting fresh air, getting fresh sunshine, eating grass. When cows eat corn, the fat they produce is very high in omega-6, which is disease promoting and inflammation causing, okay?
Cows, and they just pass that on to us.
They pass that on to us.
Okay.
Cows that eat grass and fresh water and who exercise, those cows produce a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, which we know promote heart health, lower diabetes rates, improve your cholesterol, all of that. So healthy cows make healthy people if that's what you choose to eat. And so you just need to be really careful that your cows are grass-fed, pasture-fed, no corn, and they're not in the feedlots. When they're in the feedlots, there's so many cows in there, it's just very unsanitary. The cows get diseases very easily, especially because they have a poor diet. And so they have to feed those cows lots of antibiotics. They feed them hormones so they grow faster and produce more milk. So you're getting all of that into your dairy and in your meat. So you're pumping your body full of junk that they eat, plus the hormones, plus the antibiotics. And of course, that's going to cause us disease. We're not meant to have all that stuff in our bodies.
Exactly, and it contributes to emotional disease also because of the hormones,
It
which
definitely
affects
does.
feelings and emotions.
And chickens, for instance, are genetically modified. There's chickens that have been patented because they have certain genetic modifications, and anything that's been genetically modified is going to affect our genetics as well. So it's very important to get your fish, not from a fish farm, but from the Atlantic, cold water. Oh, here's something cool about fish. The healthy thing about fish is their omega-3 fatty acids, right? They've got lots of omega-3s in them, supposedly. Where do they get those from? They get it because they swim in cold water. They need to insulate themselves, so they produce lots of fat, which is the healthy fat, to protect themselves from the cold water. Fish farms are in warm water.
Oh.
So those fish are not producing omega-3 fatty acids because they're in warm water. They don't need to. Plus, they're being fed corn and chicken coop scrapings and all sorts of other junk. And they've got the same environment as the cows, where there's lots of disease-promoting environment around them. And so they need antibiotics and hormones and all that kind of stuff.
All that stuff that gets passed right on to us.
So that's the way it is for eggs, for milk, for fish, for dairy, for everything.
Okay, so that leads me to another question I wanted to ask you. How do you start? You know, I know a lot of people, and I have a lot of clients who are literally afraid of the, you know, how to buy natural food, the health store, all of those good earth, all of those places. It's intimidating. And they go in there and they go, well, I don't know anything about this lettuce. You know, what does this mean? And where do I go in? What section do I go in? How do they overcome that? How do they start? How do they get themselves to go, okay, this week I'm going to try this? What do you think is a good way to start?
I think you just answered your own question. Just taking it a little bit at a time really helps. If you just walk into the store and you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Now I'm healthy. Now I'm going to eat healthy.
So for me, it really helps to just try a couple things every week. So when I was changing my diet, I had a goal to try 2 new things a week. So I would just do a little research or find new recipes. And, you know, maybe this week I try quinoa and some new kind of green that I've never tried before, chard. So I go, and I can go to the grocery store and look for 2 things. Go ask the clerk, can you help me find these 2 things? What do you do with these 2 things? That's a lot less intimidating than saying, okay, I just need to change everything about my life and diet and do it now. That's a lot harder.
Which sets a lot of people up for failure.
It does.
So many people are all or nothing. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it all. And then they dip, or, you know, they have a slip up, and then they throw the whole thing out the window and forget it. And it's really, really frustrating.
It is. And that's why I teach my class 1% to wellness. That's my little slogan.
Oh, I love that.
So get this. If you only have to change 1% of your eating habits every week, you make thousands of decisions about food every week, right?
Yeah.
Change 1% of that. Could you change 1% of your habits per week, not per day, per week?
Yeah.
Okay. How many weeks are in a year? 52. In 2 years, you could change 100% of your eating habits by just changing 1% per week. People can take a bite of 1%. They can do that.
I love that approach.
And if you just say, you know, try 1 recipe per week. Try 2 new foods per week, whatever your 1% is. And it's going to be different for everybody. This isn't a prescription where, you know, one size fits all. Pick your 1% per week, whatever is the easiest for you. I think that's key as well. Don't pick the hardest thing for you. Pick the thing that's going to be easy and fun. Do that this week. When that becomes easy, go on to something else next week. And if you just take it a little bit at a time, before you know it, at the end of 2 years, you'll be completely changed. Your diet will be completely changed. Your health will be completely changed. And you didn't really have to put that much effort into it.
Yeah, you didn't have to obsess about it. So do you have a website where people could go and see what foods there are and try some recipes and choose one of your recipes a week? Do you have a website where they could go and do that?
Oh, sure. CafeJanae.com.
Okay, why don't you spell it?
CafeJanae.com. And you can go there, and there's lots of videos. You can watch demonstrations about how to prepare food.
That's so great, yeah.
Then it takes the fear out of it. If you see somebody else doing it, then it's not a big deal. I've got lots of recipes that you can try with lots of new foods. And I also teach you how, you know, what foods cause disease, what foods contribute to health and illness, and I teach you like how to stock your pantry. What foods do you need for your staples? How to go grocery shopping? What's a good grocery shopping list to start out with? How to combat the social issues? Like, what do you do when your family and your friends just think you're going off the deep end because you stopped eating meat and white flour?
That's a whole nother issue, isn't it? Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I find that is just really helpful to have those resources there. So all of that's free on Cafe Janae. You just have to get on the website and you can browse all of those resources.
Well, we want to thank you for coming. You have been such a treat for the Morel Ranch, and we're hoping that everyone will understand the message that you are sending and that it's different. And you can visit cafejanae.com if you want to learn more and if you want to try some of her great recipes. Thanks.